I was a different person 10 seconds ago. And now the world is very dark.
Hey, welcome to We're Freaking Out. I'm Esther Nevarez.
I'm Jeff Horste.
And today we have Becca Wolfley.
Hey, that's me.
Yes. And she's the host the host of Best Coast Trivia, which is part of Best Coast Media Productions. And there's more to come with Best Coast Media Productions, yes?
Yeah. We're growing. We're really excited. Gonna put on some new events in LA. So yeah, we're just planning at this point. So
yay.
Great.
Stuff.
I love it. I can't wait. It's super exciting. And the trivia is super fun. So if you're in LA or you're coming to LA, look for Best Coast Trivia. Follow Best Coast Trivia on Instagram and TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Instagram and TikTok. And come out.
Yeah, and come to a trivia show for sure.
And today we're talking about Cowboy Carter because Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. If you weren't sure which Cowboy Carter was talking about, I've been freaking out about it since it came out.
Since before it came out.
Yeah,
because you went down the TikTok rabbit hole, like, and a lot of the things that people were guessing did come out to be true.
Yeah,
you were following the marketing.
Yeah, she was following the marketing, and she follows a lot of people on TikTok that were making their predictions of what it would be and what the meaning behind the marketing would be, and based
Shout
on
out Rag and Bone Shop of the Heart, Brian, Little Debbie, Des, your thick big sis. Oh my God, Des followed me back.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
So that means you were active. You were active in the community. You weren't just watching the stuff and taking the information. You were contributing towards the conversation.
I watched Little Debbie live up until the moment that the album came out.
Oh, wow.
And then
that's
she just
great.
paused it and was like, I'm going to go watch the album. It's really great. But I think I sent her to you. I don't know if you saw any of it.
Oh, you did to me a couple. Yeah. A couple of people you've been following. Mm-hmm.
But so when you first listened to it, what did you think initially?
So I was so happy to hear Beyonce do a country album, because I was a big Lemonade fan, huge Lemonade fan. And on that album, she experimented with different genres, and Daddy Lessons is on that album, and it was her country song. And that's the country song she performed at the CMT Awards or whatever, CMA Awards. And I watched that performance, and
Did you watch it live or you watched it recently? Oh my gosh, you saw it live?
Yeah. I saw it when I remember it too, because I remember them cutting to the crowd and it almost being like they weren't even there, like they were just. So I almost was like, I said something. I don't remember who I was with, but I was just like, oh, the crowd doesn't really seem into it. And lo and behold, we're years ahead of that now. And she's still was hurt from that or something, affected by that. And that, kind of the intrinsic, or the racism in country music and having to deal with that. And of all people, this, woman was born in Texas, right? Or grew up in Texas. Her mother's from Louisiana. How's that not country? She says that on the album.
She grew up performing at the rodeo. And
yeah. So it's just of all people checking country boxes, she's checking them all. And it's how dare you challenge somebody like Beyonce to be you're not a country artist. What does that even mean? So anyway, she did this with Lemonade, where she did so many songs in different genres. That album and it's so poetic, that album. And when I listened to Cowboy Carter, I was like, oh, this is the same vibes. It's the same intricate writing. Yes, it's a country album, but it also, Spaghetti touches on kind of is a rap sound. You know? And she has that what is it, Ya?
Yes.
Which everybody's losing it over.
That's probably my favorite song.
We're freaking out over Ya.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That almost has. Just that song alone, blends genres. So anyway, just to answer your question, when I heard she was putting out a country album, I love Daddy Lessons so much. I thought it was so well done on Lemonade that I was like, cool, we're getting a whole album of that. Great.
That's so cool.
That's great.
Because I didn't get to experience Lemonade because I didn't have Tidal which is so dumb that I just didn't want to pay for it.
Was it on Apple too? I thought it was also eventually on Apple.
I don't think I had Apple Music either. I just had Spotify. And so I just didn't listen to Lemonade until way after it was already out. But I love it, but I just didn't go along that whole like
the
excitement
of when
it.
It came out and everything. Yeah, it was a lot of backtracking.
But I've heard a lot of people comparing it to Lemonade and like the huge Beyonce fans being like, a lot of people saying like, I dare to say it's better than Lemonade. But then some people are like, oh, it's almost as good as Lemonade.
I don't know. I couldn't make a confident decision on that yet. That is an interesting parallel, or to like compare those two, comparison.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some
I think I would be
different.
uncomfortable to try to like make a decision on that. I think they're both really good.
Yeah. And also, I don't love that everybody always needs to know what's the best of everything.
Totally.
And it gets even harder to compare when you're getting into different genres. You're comparing. It's like comparing the best in two different sports. You know what I mean? They're two different albums with two different sounds, with two different. There's one country song in Lemonade, sure, but it's not that's the one country song. So it's like it seems weird to me to even try to compare.
It's also
something.
like people not realizing, I think, that like where were you when Lemonade came out? Like Lemonade hit me so hard because I was going through a breakup and the guy cheated on me.
Oh shit!
So that album like was great for me, like very healing for me, And this album, like I'm not going through anything like that, but understanding, like more educated on the history of America and what a lot of people in oppressive cultures like deal with. Like I'm like, oh, like this is powerful in its own its own right. I don't have to have a personal attachment to it.
Sure, yeah.
It's so cool to see somebody of that status who has risen up, who still has to deal with some of these issues.
Yeah.
But then to be able to take the metaphorical stage and just make note of it and shed the light on disparity that still exists. So
yeah, I love that it was because of the CMAs, like the fact that she's been making it for 5 years, and then the CMAs that performance was 8 years ago, I believe. So it was like 3 years of stewing and just like I'm gonna get those motherfuckers back. It's like 5 years.
Like, she had Renaissance, right, come out before that.
Yeah.
Like a huge world tour. Like like
which was gonna come out second.
Yeah.
The country album was supposed to come out first originally.
Really? I didn't
know
that.
Yeah,
but then she said because of where the country was at that time, it was
2020.
Like, I just feel like people would rather dance right now than get into heavier topics. So.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was so interesting because it was supposed to come out first, so I don't know how much of it was done. But
I guess it's true. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But at the end of, if you listen to the end of Cowboy Carter into Renaissance, it goes in like it's like seamless.
Oh my gosh, it's like when they do a movie and then they'll do like the prequel.
Yes.
After the movie.
And also because
like say multiverse going on in the
that's the multiverse I want to be a part of.
I've heard people say like they think that Beyonce is creating a multiverse with it, and like I don't know, the way there's things that are too deep, because I've seen people talk about like the way that the Renaissance stage was put together and how they think that there's an area on there that's where she's going into the other universe. It's insanity.
I think what's really admirable about building anything like that and like is that just like the amount of people you have to keep on track and on theme, like the writers involved, the artists involved, the production involved, and to have these little like tidbits of like, okay, like to create like a seamless like transition from one album to another, or to create a multiverse. It's just like, okay, but like you always have to keep this vision in mind when you're working with, like, she's probably working with, I don't know, 200, 500 people in any given day, you know, like,
because the end of Cowboy Carter goes like the sound goes like bzzz, almost like it sounds like it's going to space. And like in the very end it goes like zzz, boop, and that's like a digital sound, and it's one of the only digital sounds in the album. Everything sounds super analog, even if it is just a ding as a bell, it sounds like it could go into like the digital realm because it sounds like a sine wave, which is a very digital sound. It's like an electronic sound. You know?
Esther's an audio nerd.
No, that's I'm like
so that
over here.
I know.
It's so interesting because, and then she also said that Renaissance was more of a like a safe space. Everyone is welcome, like a utopia album, and this was a where we need to burn this country down and build it over album.
Yeah. And well, the opening track is kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That song sounds like I just see like a Broadway musical in my head.
Yes.
Like American Requiem.
Yes.
That's okay. So I got kind of like, I think I texted my aunt this. I was like, kind of Leonard Skinner vibes from it. Like there's a lot of talking going on. Like when she says there's a lot of talking going on.
I didn't think of that
and it sounds a little like Leonard Skinner.
What is that song? That one, right? I was like, ain't exactly clear.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. Yeah, but I was like, the sound was like reminiscent to me of like Leonard Skinner.
Yeah,
and like this kind of like deep. I don't know if there was like a. What is it? One of those rain stick things, like very subtly in the background. Or something?
Yeah.
I like that she didn't have too much going on in the background of just the songs. Sometimes you don't need as much in the beat, in the rhythm of the song. It can be overpowering or.
Oh, you mean in general?
Just in
American
general.
Requiem is very layered with vocals
Sure.
over vocals.
But even with the layering of the vocals, it's the layering of the vocals. It's not the track itself.
Yeah, I guess I don't.
Isn't. It kind of comes out simple to start with. It builds, you know what I mean? But it's not. I liked how it built, and I like just the sound quality of the choices that she made throughout the album.
I'm so excited to hear everything you've said about the sound of it because you have like an ear for sound, but I'm like lean into the lyricism. Like I studied poetry and like love lyrics and like kind of dissect those. And I don't think of sound like the way that you do. And so even you mentioning the end of the album and like that digital versus analog, I was like, oh, that's a fun fact.
Because like Blackbird, I was telling you this like when we were texting. Blackbird, the Beatles cover, the panning is the guitar is on one side, like all the way on one side, and then the like beat. I'm not even sure what she's playing. Sounds like someone's just stomping on something, but is on the other side, and then the vocals in the middle. Like because the Beatles used to have to pan things on one side or the other because they were on like I believe sometimes 4 tracks, but sometimes 8 track recorders. So you have to pan things just so that you can get more tracks and then bounce them down to X amount of tracks and then record on the new tracks. So everything had to be panned over. So it was cool because that's how stuff used to be, that's how it sounded. Like they mimicked the way that recordings used to be. And it sounds really analog in general. Like there's a lot of just instruments that aren't digital, aren't plugged in,
okay, so you
electronic.
Say like analog. Like it's so nice to learn actual terminology and sound because I would describe it to people as like, I don't know, it's just more raw, I guess. Like it just feels more like organic almost.
Yeah, and organic is more analog because analog is more of a kind of the opposite of digital, more organic, really. I mean, it's the natural sound of instruments versus the fake instruments of synthesizers. Mm-hmm. But she did, I haven't looked into the production that much, but it sounds like she recorded on tape. For some reason, when I heard this album, I was just like, oh my gosh, it sounds like actual tape recording.
Yeah,
so I want to know if she did. I haven't looked it up yet.
I wonder as like an artist and like somebody of her like caliber, when you're recording something like that, how fascinating it must be to be the person that makes decisions. Like, okay, like I want this sound to be as authentic as possible so that it's really rooted in that country. Like it's, an homage to that country, like sound, which is original, hundreds of years ago or whatever. But also you're Beyonce and you have to, and we have such innovation with production now. So like, how do you find that balance?
Well, the other thing is that sometimes people like equate that old sound as being like lo-fi when like the vintage microphones sound better and can pick up more than more recent microphones. Like they just have there's a coloring to them. There's like tubes in them that the way that the microphone, the electronics in it are different than a lot of the newer microphones. Some of the newer microphones are just made cheaper, but analog microphones are made.
Everything. I didn't know that across the board. People say that about cars and furniture, and it's just like, people just make things like shit now. Yeah, that's but
even the way things sound clearer, like to be more real, doesn't always make it sound better. Because when things are more real, like tape, recording on a tape, it gives it a natural, like more low end, which is called compression. But you're getting that sound from the tape recording itself, like vinyl, like records. Records sound a certain way, and they give it a color that you can't get off of CDs because CDs are too accurate. Like you're not getting the same like feeling off of them. But anyway, I think that Nashville and country music, the production is so good. It's like they can use all this old equipment and it can sound amazing with what the newer equipment that they have going along with it. Like it's not like lo-fi sounding. It's like all this vintage equipment, but the production is done really well. Like I don't know how to explain it, but not like low quality. So I don't know. I'm curious to know how she did it.
We'll find out.
I have a million notes.
Yeah. I'm excited to see.
So
the research done
but
here.
I like that you were saying about the track list, because I was doing that too, like going down the track list, because I think the next song was Blackbird, right? With
bunch of people.
She had, I think it was, what was it, 4 or 5 other
4,
female?
And I wrote it down so that I didn't say it wrong. And now, Tanner, Adele, Brittany Spencer, and Tierra. Oh, I don't have her last name written down because it was on Spotify and her last name was cut off.
Wait, let me see if it says it here. Tierra Kennedy.
Tierra Kennedy. Yes. So once the Super Bowl.
Wait, Raina Roberts. Did you say Raina Roberts?
Oh, I don't think I did. No, I failed in Raina Roberts. But when she released Texas Hold'em, my TikTok just was like, oh, well, now you have to listen to all these. And 3 of those women were just on my TikTok now.
Yeah. Brittany Spencer, I think she's sung with Maren Morris a lot. I really like Maren Morris. And they've done a couple shows together.
Oh, so, is that the woman you were telling us about? Like you had a shirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot about her.
Yeah.
Because I haven't listened to country and
big
I don't
Maren
know
fan.
when.
She actually just left Nashville because she was just kind of like, this isn't, like the culture is. I feel like she was always whistleblowing, and she was just like, I think I just want to be comfortable now, and so like she left. So
yeah, hey, go wherever you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
why not?
Crazy. But that song, I didn't know it was a civil rights song. Did you know that Blackbird was?
No, and it took a second rodeo of it for me to understand that it was.
I don't know why, because I used to. I mean, I still like the Beatles, but this girl that I grew up with, long story, but anyway, she had a Beatles phase. Like, she lived in our house, so she was like a sister. She had a Beatles phase that was so huge, and it was during, I don't know, I was like 8 or 9 years old, and all we listened to was the Beatles. So I listened to every album over and over and over, but there was no internet, so nobody taught me. I don't know, and then I just never found out. But I definitely didn't know it was about the Little Rock Nine, which are the. Did you know about that? It's these kids that when segregation happened and then the schools became integrated, they went to school into a white school, and legally they could, but the white school did not want them there, and they had to. The National Guard had to come out
like
just to walk them into the school. It's insane.
Yeah, that was like a Ruby Bridges situation. Like, was she part of that, or was that a different scenario? Ruby Bridges was like the first kid, right?
I thought that was different. Ruby Bridges. I thought Ruby was on her own.
Yeah, she might have been.
Embarrassed that I don't know the history that I should.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing, Esther.
Yeah.
It was like they had to be escorted. They were screamed at.
Yeah.
Like, they were harassed. And
I think I did hear because
Norman Rockwell did a famous painting of Ruby Bridges.
Oh, okay. One of the people of the Little Rock Nine, their daughter, I followed on TikTok because she came up in my algorithm because TikTok algorithm is the best.
It is a really great algorithm.
Yeah.
This is a promotional ad for TikTok.
Yeah, it just figures out what you like, and then it shows you that.
She was saying that people were saying this song was about Ruby Bridges, and she said it was not. So I guess that's where the distinction was with that.
I see.
But that when I saw that these girls were on that song, oh my gosh. And the way that I've heard people interpret it is that she's ushering them in.
Yeah.
And like kind of mothering, like, all right, you're the next generation, and I'm going to make sure that it's not as shitty for you.
And that it's more black women represented in country music.
Yeah.
It's
so sweet.
We started to watch more than I've ever watched of the Country Music Awards today.
Because I wanted Beyonce to be on.
She wanted Beyonce to be on.
Well, they so just talking about ushering black women into country music, was Linda Martell was like a big part of this album, right? Mm-hmm. And so they talk about like the history of Linda Martell. I only read briefly about it, but it was essentially like she was phenomenal and like innovative in this and that, but because of her race, it's almost like she was stunted.
Yes.
And like didn't get to grow as much as she should have. And it's so cool to like take that from history and then to be Beyonce and to be like, this happened to somebody, who paved a way for someone like me. And now and who didn't get the success they deserved. Yeah. So I'm going to do what I can with the power that I have to make sure these women get doors open for them. It's like it's just like such a tip of the hat to Linda Martell. Really cool.
And she left, I guess Linda Martell, from what I read from all of this, because I didn't know who she was, but she became a bus driver.
No way.
She just quit insane. Or comedy. Jesus. That's something else.
No, I bet she was funny too. I bet Linda Martell was funny as fuck.
She quit country music because of all the racism and just because
it's exhausting. I can only imagine how exhausting it is. Like
Beyonce's exhausted from it today by today's standards. Jesus.
Yeah. So she has to take 3 years to make an album. She's so tired.
She had she was the first woman at the Grand Ole Opry. She had her album out that was supposed to.
Have you guys been to the Grand Ole Opry?
No.
Mm-mm. It is like.
You've been?
I have like cold chills. Like I was a teenager, and so I feel like if I were even an adult now, like it would be even more impactful. But like it's like, and I mean it's like stepping back in time. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
It's like the detail, like being a sound person too. Like you would see it in the walls, like the way it's like it's just like so, and the sound when they're actually playing instruments there. I forget who I even saw, but I was there for a show when I was a teenager, and like. I like remember the lighting and how powerful the sound was, and just the music. Going back to what you're talking about, how like country music can take these instruments and turn. It's almost like even at a live venue, like it was so clean and crisp and powerful.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a stunning venue. If you ever get a chance to go, definitely go.
That's really cool.
It is interesting as a side note. Just I'd never think about sound as much. I never have until Esther, but of. Good sound can just change it. I remember the first time that we were at Jack White
Masonic Temple.
No, Third Man. Of just like that was some good. To a lot of places, when you turn it, the volume will distort it no matter what. At some point, it'll just. Everywhere I go, and that was the only place I've been to where I was like, this is very loud, but it doesn't hurt my ears, and I can understand everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the volume didn't distort it. And it's just crazy that at such a high level some people, it's still not consistent. You'd
that's
think
why
that
he moved to Nashville.
That's why people need to hire like sound engineers and people that know it, instead of just thinking that I have enough money, I can Google it and buy it and it'll just do the job. Because even people with a crap load of money have concerts that still sound like shit. And you're like, this is insane. But
so at the end of, I was going to say of Linda Martell that I had heard that she was supposed to put something out and was had her album was supposed to be promoted, and they ended up, whoever was supposed to be promoting her promoted a white woman instead, and she was just like, I've had enough, I'm done eventually, and and then became a bus driver, and that's just wild. Hopefully she gets a little more recognition now. But because I definitely didn't know who she was. The end of Blackbird too, I think has that digital sound at the end. I don't know. I listen to people who go down rabbit holes, so maybe this is too much of a rabbit hole. But the theory was that at the end it was like a digital sound because you're going from into the new generation of like ushering in the new generation of country.
So, do you want to jump? Are you going in order of these notes?
I was going to go in order of the track list, but I don't remember what's next. That would be 16.
Yeah, I was just curious.
16 Carriages is next, right? I think so. And of that song, the thing that I heard about that song was that, well, now I didn't write this down, but now I got to look it up. There was something to do. Well, Cowboy Carter was named also after there was a Carter family that is, people say, started country music, but it's a white family. But that white family would go to the houses of black musicians and take their songs and take their style of playing and learn from them. And so I want to say they had a song that was something 16 Coaches or something. So that had like a nod to them, which I think Cowboy Carter being she's Carter and they were Carter. It's kind of you took a bunch of music, but it's hard for me to be mad at somebody for stealing music at that time because there was no place for black people to put music out. There wasn't an avenue.
It's like it's messed up for somebody to steal it, and then it's also but to be 100% honest, it's like, well, this is what society is, so they're not going to put your music out. It'd be great if somebody gave you credit, but then also nobody's going to hear your music coming from a black person at this time period. It's like it's so fucked up that it's like stealing the music's the only way for your music to come out because society's so racist. It's not like an excuse as much as just like it's just such a shitty situation and like all around.
Like, did you hear about the horse on the album? The cover? Like what kind of horse it is?
Wait, I did. I read something about
it's. Oh, I didn't write that down either. Man, my notes are being bad to me right
this
now.
Was just look up
the type of horse.
Also, the way that she's riding the horse. Well, because it was supposed to be like something about, was it George Washington or there was a general or something that she's kind of mimicking, but then she's elevating. I don't know. That's what I got from. I read that somewhere.
I want to say it was the Confederate Army, General Lee.
Yeah, so it was like a general. I'm gonna look it up.
But yes, it's called a
Lipizzanner. Sure, I don't know if somebody's.
They're rare, right?
If somebody knows horses, they're going to be like, it's a Lipizzanner, and they're mad at me right now because I don't know horses. But it's a breed that is usually born with a brown or black coat that grows in gray and then white over time.
Okay, I did read that.
And so
it turns from gray or black to white.
And you see that her hair is like silvery white, and
she looks like she's just blending into the horse.
Yeah,
but it's people are saying is that it's like it was black and you turned it white.
Yeah.
So that is kind of like that symbolism. Not to mention she is like as white as she can be with the white hair.
Almost
and
like,
the
am
white
I white
outfit.
enough for you guys now?
Yeah.
Fuck off. Does this work? Are you guys happy? Yeah.
Because she even says in the beginning, like, I wasn't country enough, and or I was too country. Because she said,
and then the rejection came, and it says it wasn't country enough
because she had a country.
Daddy, the song on Lemonade wasn't accepted as a country song
because she had a country,
which is wild
accent.
because it's still like ranked, like it was on the chart, like it was doing really well. It's just like, it was perplexing to me, like when I was like, that's one of the best country songs I've heard in a while.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, she's writing it trick style too. So on the cover, she was like writing it trick style, and that was like, I don't know, there was something about like writing it trick style and how that like in the original like the general who's originally writing it in the painting is writing it straightforward, like you should ride a horse, and it's just like, no, look at the people that created this, like they can also turn it into something even greater. Like I don't know, it was just really cool. The cover art was really well done.
Yeah. And the other picture where she looks like kind of like the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
I love that too. It's kind of like that, almost like this is what America's supposed to be, but okay. You know. But Protector. I'm trying to remember Protector. I don't think I wrote any notes about it. That's her song to Rumi, right?
Yeah.
I think Rumi opens it.
Yes.
Yeah, because she's trying to get all her kids a Grammy.
Yes. But it is very sweet. And I can't imagine listening to that if I had a kid. It was very like, I'm gonna be your protector forever, like a song to her daughter, which I know one is a song to Blue on another album. And I think My Rose is supposed to be for...
I'm like reading the lyrics
her.
And it's just like, it's so like, it's just definitely it's a song from a mother for sure. And it's like, I know you'll shine on your own someday, but I'll be your projector or whatever. Like it's so cool. And it's just like, you know, that Rumi's going to grow up and these kids are going to grow up and they're going to get to listen to a song like that and be like, you know, without realize. I mean, I'm sure they realize, at least Blue knows that her mom is Beyonce, right? Yeah. Like, but you know, these.
She went on tour. She didn't know before. She knew after the Renaissance tour how famous her mom was.
Yeah, she also knew she had to work on her dancing a little bit after the. Yeah. And then she did. She did. She killed it. But it's just so cool to have a parent that does that art. But then like, you know, like. At the end of the day, it's just like, I'm going to be your mom. Like, and I will make sure that nothing hurts you. And then whatever you need, I'll support you. And like, it's just giving me cold chills thinking like how beautiful that is, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely also like ushering in her next generation and being like, this is my family and they're not going to have the issues I had because I'm going to fucking change the world.
Yeah. And it's
really cool.
She will, you know.
Yeah.
She has.
My Rose is titled Mr. Sir on the CD version. Oh, I know I read that somewhere. I was going crazy.
CD, so there's like 5 people that found that out. People are buying CDs.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah, you did say CD and it took me a second.
But so the Protector is for Rumi, and then My Rose is for Sir.
Cute.
And what was next? Oh, yeah, and then Smoke Hour with Willie Nelson.
Oh, my God. I love these. I love the Willie Nelson and Dolly segues. Like, I just think that, like, and that's, like, who better to do it than two of these people who have been in country music for decades.
They're
who
loved,
have also made
respected.
such an impact on country music. You know, Willie Nelson with his, you know, kind of pro-marijuana usage, right?
Yeah.
Way ahead of his time, you know?
And that has to be crazy to be his age and be like, oh, so finally I'm not a fucking asshole for liking weed. Yeah. Okay, great, guys. Yeah, and it's also like, but as a white man, he could navigate it safely, almost, you know, like he could, I mean, people knew Willie Nelson was always alluding to smoking weed and like, even in, you know, PR or public interviews or whatever, it's like,
those allusions, he would still reference it.
Yeah.
And, maybe not say it explicitly or whatever. But it's like, now that it's, legal in a lot of places, it's welcome. But it's like, okay, but if he were a black man, 40, 50 years ago, like, it'd be a huge problem.
Yeah.
And then there's Dolly, of course, which is my president. Dolly Parton, who's, also had her own bouts of like, scrutiny with people, and just always rose up above it, and was very poised and just navigated it so well.
And she's so humble.
She's so humble, and she's had just the way that she navigates criticism is so funny. She becomes clever in her response. She was in an interview one time, and somebody asked her, I think it was like how long it took her to do her hair, and she said, well, you'd have to ask my wig maker or something. Or something like that.
Yeah, she handles those questions really well.
Yeah, or like, people ask her about her boobs, and she was like, well, if I had a choice, like I did. She was like, I didn't pay for them, so and it's just like, nobody needs to be asked about, no woman needs to be asked about that stuff. Like, you're a musician, like, ask me about music, you know. And also, she built an entire theme park, like Dolly World. Come on, like,
yeah.
Man,
I remember when you showed me 9 to 5.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love Dolly Parton growing up. Holy shit! Like, I learned to tie my shoes at a Dolly Parton concert. I still remember.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
What an interesting core memory.
I know. You remember when you learned to tie your shoes? That's the craziest part to me. My brain don't go that far back.
Oh, I totally remember. One of the Stewart girls, one of our family friends, taught me how to tie my shoes. And we were at the Michigan State Fair watching Dolly Parton, which was my second Dolly Parton concert, because I had already gone in kindergarten. And I took my Dolly Parton doll, and I was there at Pine Knob with my Dolly Parton doll, like, yay, play Two Doors Down. I don't know, that was my favorite song.
And now we have a Dolly Parton candle.
I love how, like, in this song, or in this transition, the Smoke Hour, he's like, okay, so first of all, I don't know, is Willie Nelson currently a radio host? Because if not, he needs a new gig. Like, he needs to be a radio host. I'm trying to listen.
I just liked his voice.
I'm trying to listen to like the Sirius. I will subscribe to Sirius XM. If like Willie Nelson has his own show.
Absolutely.
And but he says he basically says, I want you to sit back and go to a place in your mind where you like to wander off. And if you don't want to go find a jukebox.
Yeah.
He was just like, if you don't want to listen to this stuff, like, go find some kind of
I didn't think about that.
modern thing where you can pick your own thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's so cool. It's just
I didn't think about that. That was a way of saying, like, if you don't like this, kind of fuck off.
Yeah.
That was
but
like a change the channel. That was
in the highest way possible.
Yeah. I like that.
He's like, because this is the radio, so you get whatever we play for you.
Exactly.
So if you don't like this, you're gonna have to go to a jukebox and buy some song you would rather listen to.
And I don't have all of the names of all the music that was played on it, but I have seen people that have looked it up, and it's interesting, and it's great that people are, especially like younger people, like the TikTok people, have looked every single thing, every single tiny piece of audio that she played, looking it up, seeing who it is, seeing how it fits into musical history, into country music history, into black music history.
There's so many things that I learned that I just forever of all of the references of. Wasn't there a Beach Boys reference?
Oh yeah,
that's in one of the songs.
And then but, you were pointing out that wasn't even originally their song either. Bringing
Beach
light to
Boys
that.
Actually,
I don't.
Brian Wilson.
Oh,
I thought you said something like that.
I forgot about that.
There's a million things like that throughout the entire album.
Well, it's because there were some Beach Boys songs that were. Oh, there was a Chuck Berry song that sounds like Surfing USA, but it's a different song.
That's
and
what
so
it was.
the Beach Boys.
Is it Levi Jeans?
No,
you're talking about
like
specifically
Beach Boys in general.
Okay.
Because there was an article written that was kind of like dogging on Cowboy Carter, saying how like, oh, she's giving these white artists these like nods. And it's like, but some of the white artists that are getting nods are white artists that originally took black music.
Yeah.
So it's all just how everything fits together.
So that's on the interpreter then, right? So it's like, she's giving these white artists nods. It's like, well, if they're originally done by black artists, then you know, who are we to say, you know, who's nodding to who? You know, maybe she is giving a nod to like those rooted in that, you know, and reclaiming it almost, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then sadly, I
Chuck Berry?
I showed Chuck.
Oh my
showed
God.
Jeff a Chuck Berry sex video.
I forgot.
Did you know Chuck
Did
Berry
you know
had a
about? Did you
sex
know about
tape?
this? Did you know about this? And if you,
Chuck Berry
when
is
was the last time you
considered-
saw it? If you did see it,
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right.
The Chuck
Okay.
Berry sex
Okay.
video.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
want to see it. I don't want to see it.
No.
Can
We
she
don't have
hear
to
it?
see No, we don't want to play that.
No.
But
Too much of a tangent.
Tell her.
Too much of a tangent.
this
Unless it's
is all about-
sampled. Is
this
it
is all-
sampled on the album?
This is all about tangents. We
He's urinating on a prostitute and farting and saying for her to smell it.
Okay.
and you're just like,
I was a different person 10 seconds ago.
The thing,
And now the world is very dark. So
yes, he's
not- what was this? What
all
was the
done
song?
bad things.
Because then when you hear his music, you're like, that's not the guy. That's not the same guy from the video that I watched.
Maybelline or Johnny Be Good.
Johnny Be Good. You're like, this ain't Johnny Be Good right now. He's telling this prostitute to.
You know, Chuck Berry went to a dark place. I think he also used to put cameras in a women's bathroom or cameras in the bathroom. Yeah, it's.
I was like, well, at least he was. You know, the woman got paid. I'm hoping she got compensated.
I mean, she was compensated.
You know, he's supporting women
Sex work.
businesses. Yeah, small businesses.
Small businesses.
He was paying
Big business.
paying women. But
Well, I don't know how we're gonna come back from Chuck Berry peeing on somebody. But
he was allegedly the founder of rock and roll, but then people say that Sister Rosetta Tharpe was the founder of rock and roll.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Sister.
Yeah. Until there's
no. That's
Rosetta
the thing.
Tharpe.
That's the
until
thing.
there's a sex tape from her. Let's just go with her. Yeah. Let's just pick.
No, like, I mean, I'm glad that that's been like a conversation, but I think it's been part of a conversation for a couple of years. Well, not a couple of years. I'm hoping like 10 years now, 5 years now. But people are finally really talking about how like rock and roll was started by black women. Like, you know, like the blues that turned into rock and roll, like, you know, that's was started by black women. And then black men, like, you know, were using that sound, and then white men took that from black men, and like, you know, it's one thing into another. But when you think about the blues, you know, and the sounds and the lyricism of the blues, it's like people who are the most like oppressed, and no one is more oppressed than the black woman, you know. And so it just makes a lot of sense when you like, and I'm sure there's so much older music to like look back on and be like, oh, this makes total sense. It should make total sense now that, you know, and I'm glad it's been part of the conversation.
Because it's definitely something that like black people have been saying in their music forever, but it's definitely, I feel like, more recent that like when people want to say like mainstream society finally like, oh, like repeating the same things that black people have been saying in general, but also in their music for years.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's really good about when people make like diverse music that like can speak to multiple groups. Then it's like there's white people listening to Lizzo that was their first time.
Lizzo says it in rumors.
Yeah, well, that was like their first. You know, there's some people that are like, oh wow, black people created rock and roll. Like that's if they weren't a Lizzo fan, they wouldn't have gone down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
you know,
but
like
isn't
there's
that-
100 artists before Lizzo that said the same
Rosetta-
thing. But it's
Rosetta
good that
Tharpe in the video on the wall.
yeah.
It's
So-
interesting when and that's such a testament to like the oppressive nature that they experience, and that need to have to work harder to prove themselves. Because like when a black person says, oh, you know, black people invented rock and roll, people, you know, have people criticize that, and they say, well, where did you get, how, explain yourself. But when a white man goes, no, they didn't invent rock and roll, people just believe them.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
they
you
don't have to rationalize. They don't have to do their research. They're just, you know, they're just so forceful enough with their opinion that people just say, "Oh, okay." Like,
yeah, the burden of proof.
Yeah. Thank you. Burden of proof. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh no, we're just going to believe you, but you have to prove yourself.
Right.
Yeah. No
Even though
provided.
the proof is in the pudding, and you've been making that pudding for decades now. Like,
I didn't know the origin of banjo. I've learned a lot. I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know
anything.
that. Tell me that.
The origin of banjo was an African instrument. And so when
using like gourds.
When Africans were brought here, it was
on a cruise.
Then they had banjos made out of gourds. Yes, and then,
would it be like Esther? Would it be like the gourd cut in half, or like?
I think I think it was the cut in half. I haven't seen pictures. No, I don't think I've seen pictures of it, but I was just envisioning because people were talking about that being that sort of instrument. So yeah, gourd cut in half. And then when there were minstrel shows, which were blackface, white people in blackface were playing banjo for these shows, so much that they appropriated it, and then eventually country music has banjo that you associate with white people.
Wow.
So white country music came from blackface.
And
yeah.
But it's not racist.
That was their roots.
Totally not racist. Though.
Yeah.
It
was just how it was back then.
Oh. And something else I had heard was about how tambourine come from slaves using small instruments, because they took instruments away from slaves because they felt like they were going to communicate with each other somehow.
Yeah.
And that it showed. Oh, also with the hair, when she had her hair in braids and such, like I've heard black women on TikTok talk about the history of it being people's head were shaved because they had beads and shells in their hair that talked about what culture they were from, what their status was in their culture, what these people are a collective, like, oh, you're part of this, whatever, like this area. So am I because of our hair. So it's just like stripped away. Everything was stripped away and all just slowly reclaimed. But yeah,
there really was history in of just how deep it goes for black women's hair. And it's more than just a hairstyle, but to a lot of white people, they're like, it's just hair. And it's like, well, there's a lot of history behind it.
The woman playing banjo in Texas Hold'em is named Rhiannon Giddens, and she's a black woman. That's nice. I'm glad that so the first sound that was heard for this whole album was Texas Hold'em, was a black woman playing banjo. That's so cool.
Giddens. Oh, I want to look. I wonder if she's played guitar for her before.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
And I feel like I like Texas Hold'em now more than when it came out. I still liked it, but without knowing what the rest of the album would be, it was like it's probably one of the more not stereotypical. I don't know. It's the most country, for lack of a better term, I guess. But I'm not even sure if somebody could argue that it's not. But it was an interest. I felt like it was the song that you come out with as your debut song. But I mean, you wouldn't even need that song, and it's still a great album.
Yeah,
that's how many great songs there are. So it's just like, to me, the people that have only heard that, like when I posted a video talking about my appreciation of and everything of the album, there was people that commented and were like, how do you know there's only one song? You only heard one song.
Who said that?
It was just a handful of there's just a ton of comments, and some of the comments were like people that legitimately thought there was only one song. When I'm like, she put out two. There was also 16 characters, and there was a whole album by now. It's like, even if you didn't know the whole album came out today, there was also two. It's like you're so far behind.
Texas Hold'em, I think, like, first of all, that easy listening country sound for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I think just from a marketing perspective, it's the best song to put out, you know, to market something like that, because it intros with the banjo. And, you know, that's, I mean, immediately your head goes immediately to country music.
Yeah.
Right. And this ain't Texas, you know, like that's a country song through and through. Like, and which it's marketable. It's such a, and it's so catchy, and people are like boot scooting to it. And like, you know, just what it was, a 30 seconds when she promoted it, or 15-second video. Yeah. You know, when it was it the Super Bowl?
It was the Super Bowl.
Yeah. When it introed like that, and like, it's just, people got so jazzed about it.
Yeah. There were also comparisons of the fact that when she was on the Super Bowl and it was Formation, right? That people freaked out.
So that was, because it's Lemonade. It's about lemonade. Yeah. And again, that was like it's my favorite Beyonce album. But she did it at the Super. It was also somebody else. I think it was Coldplay at the Super Bowl. Like,
yes.
She wasn't even supposed to really perform.
Yes.
And it became her Super Bowl.
Yes. I forgot that. And I forgot there was ever somebody else besides her at the Super Bowl.
And that is the point.
Wow. There was Coldplay.
I think it was supposed to be Coldplay and somebody else. And
I mean, I'm not saying it as a question. It's like that's like a thought that came back to my mind that I forgot. It's like I'm not like questioning if it's Coldplay.
It might have not been Coldplay.
No, I think it was Coldplay.
But it was recently. It was supposed to be two people, Coldplay and somebody else. But then she showed up with Formation.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was like, this is the Beyonce.
Coldplay's 50. Yeah, it was called Coldplay's Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show. Like when they were advertising,
So it's just so great that's when she was like, "Oh, you're too black at the Super Bowl," and she was like, "Oh, really?
Oh, watch me.
Here's my country album.
Hot sauce in my bag. Swag."
Which to this day, I'm still one of my favorite SNL sketches is when they realize that Beyonce is black. You remember that when they're just like, Beyonce, the way that people responded to her.
I thought you were talking about Beyonce.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good Beyonce SNL sketches. All right, but yeah, when they're just white women that were just freaking out on the streets. All of society went crazy. Of people that acted like they didn't know she was black until the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay, I get it. I'm trying to remember Bodyguard.
Oh my God, Bodyguard is so fun. Okay, so wait, did you research Bodyguard at all? There's all this rumor going around that it's actually about her bodyguard, but I think they're related. I think they're cousin. It's her cousin or something.
Oh.
But I forget.
I don't know.
Her bodyguard. I was watching something the other day, and they were like, "Could you imagine a tell-all from her bodyguard?"
He'd get killed before he came out.
I just know this song sounds like very
too much,
very smooth.
Yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily.
His name's Julius.
Doesn't necessarily sound country, so it is kind of like just like a smooth song that I don't think necessarily sounds country, but it's a good song. No, I didn't research it, so I don't know. But every time I'm I was going to say on Texas
I feel like
Hold'em,
that's going to be a single. I think
everything sounds like a single.
I know. There are a lot of Willie Nelson Smoke Hour. I want that to be a single.
But in Texas Hold'em, well, people say that Act 3 is going to be rock. I don't know if it is, but that would be really cool. And she's making rock references in this album too, like in Texas Hold'em when she says "Pour some sugar on me." Like that's Def Leppard. Like I never can hear "Pour some sugar on me" and not think of Def Leppard.
And some honey too.
It's what?
And some honey too, right? Is that?
Yeah. And there's another song where she mentions like a mosh pit, like foreshadowing. Yeah. I think we're getting foreshadowing.
And then we get to number 9, Dolly P.
Oh, yeah.
The first intro of Dolly Parton on the album, I believe. I don't think she was on a... Yeah, and...
So how did you feel about Jolene?
I really liked it. There's a lot of conversation around it. What I love about it is that... So in original Jolene, it's essentially this rhetoric of like Dolly begging this woman not to go after her man. Like... please don't take him, and like begging this woman. And Beyonce reformatting or rewriting some of those lyrics to be like, bitch, don't even try.
Yeah.
However, there's definitely some lyrics in it too that it's just like we've been together 20 years. I raised that man. I raised his kids. Where it's just like, ooh, like that kind of sucks.
Now,
like you shouldn't, you know. But it's also, you know, it's not that it's acceptable, but I think Beyonce saying something like that shows that like, you know, a lot of women deal with that. Like a lot of women feel like they have to, you know, raise their partner or go through such a coming of age phase with their partner when they're kind of ahead of that, and, you know, deal with those problems or repercussions and guide their partner. And it kind of does suck that it's a little threatening to like Jolene. Like she's just like, you know, threatening this woman kind of in the lyrics that she's transformed. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm like,
that's my favorite part is her threatening her.
Yeah.
That's I got hype. I got like hype when I heard it. Like fucking stab that bitch. Like I was waiting. I was like, I was hype as fuck when I heard it for the first time.
So she says, yeah. So she
says about her mom and not her.
And her mom dealt with infidelity, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I'm
still. Said
so it could
Louisiana,
be Tina
like
that's gonna beat her ass.
Yeah, and you're like, you're not from Louisiana, so this has to be about your mom. Like in the
I
song
love that line though. I'm still a Creole banjo bitch from Louisiana. Oh, that hits so hard.
Yeah.
Because she did make it her own.
Yeah, she made it her own.
She made that song her own.
And you said that the writing credits went to Dolly.
I just saw this today that she did not give herself a writing credit on that Jolene, even though she rewrote it. Mm-hmm. Like she rewrote the lyrics.
Well,
she gave it all to Dolly, so Dolly gets all the money.
That's proper respect and planning too, because like, you know, people. Like as soon as they heard it, those lyrics change. People be like, "How dare you change a Dolly song? How dare you?" Blah blah blah. But it's just like, no, like that's such, like to me, that's like it's so respectful to cover that song. Yeah. Also, Dolly came out and said it even prior years ago in an interview. She said, "I would love Beyonce to cover, you know, one of my songs or whatever," and then she did.
Yeah, she liked to cover Jolene, not even just one of my songs. She just specifically was like, "I'd love for Beyonce to cover Jolene." You know, I know that there's like over 300 people have done other ones, but yeah, she like mentioned it like compared to like Whitney of like, I want, you know, I love her, and like she just complimented Beyonce just in general. You could tell that she just loved Beyonce, and you know, and so that's why it's so crazy that I feel like that's the first, not the first, that's one of the main. I feel like there's a whole bunch of stereotypical criticisms that if you compare all of the various haters, whether it's Candace Owens or, you know, whoever else, that they go with Jolene as like, oh, well, you did a cover, so you didn't even make the song. So, you know. She's a whole album. So you
didn't make one of the songs.
Yeah, it's a 27 track album or something.
I think it was. So SZA put out a lengthier album, which she won a couple Grammys for. And my friend Hannah, she texted me. She said, "How many tracks are on this album? 24? How many tracks are on Cowboy Carter?"
I thought it was 27, and then 27. I Googled it, and then the list I'm looking at says 20, so now I'm wondering what I missed. Because this one says 24. So now I'm like, what are we talking about? So now I feel like I got to pull up Spotify. Because this says 27. 27. So I don't know what was missing on the article that I pulled up, but we're here now.
SOS was SZA's album, and it had 23 tracks on it. And so that's a really long album. And my friend Hannah messaged me and she said, Beyonce said, "Hold my beer."
Hell yeah.
I do like that. I mean, a lot of the tracks are like segue tracks, right? Yeah. And you have the Dolly one, the two Willie Nelson ones. I love that. I mean, to me, that's like really like almost literature storytelling.
Yeah,
right?
It feels like theatrical. Mm-hmm. Like when I listen to it, I just put on headphones, which I don't even ever do. I don't know. I put on, to listen to a whole album with just headphones, I felt like it was like, 1978.
Also straight away. I feel like that's, I love
the whole
that
thing all the way through, beginning to
end.
Yeah,
that's what I did it. She did it.
We're being more intentional about that though, and I think like her doing something like this, and like other artists do it too, but and I think people who really, really love music just genuinely do listen to albums from front to back, like straight away. But, like instead, it's so easy to hit the mix sign, like the shuffle button, and doing something like this, it's like you're living through acts, right? Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and like you have to listen to it straightforward. And I think that having an album this big from somebody this big, like, is encouraging to like younger generations to like, let's retrain that, you know, like, let's go back and like listen to music how it should be listened to, which is as a story, you know?
Yeah. To me, it's like, how much do I respect this artist? I don't know if this is even a conscious thought, but that's really how I approach it. Because if it's even if it's an artist and I haven't liked the last 3 albums, but I grew up loving them, I'm still probably going to listen to it in order the way that it is the first time, just because of the respect of this artist. Versus, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, their one last album sucked, so they fell off. So then they just skip through it. That's what my brother did. He's not going to listen to this or watch this. So, you know, fuck you, Justin. It was great. And
they got in a fight. Justin hung up on Jeff over this album.
I didn't know. I talk to my friends when it's a silly conversation. I feel like it's impossible for me to go too far. I believe it's like if
when we're arguing at the bar, we're having like a academic debate and like we're just like it's whatever.
We're talking about the Beyonce album, so even if I say fuck you, that's not the same thing as that's not a personal fuck you. I thought it was a joking. It was making me smile that we were getting angry at each other.
Yeah, because but it's over.
His anger was real, and so
you're like, oh,
I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Didn't engage. Okay, so I just had this little epiphany. But we were talking about listening to albums from the beginning to end, straightforward. And I was brought up and like, you know, I had CDs and stuff, but like the shuffle was already invented, you know, and like, and then I was maybe a teenager when the streaming platforms came out, etc. It was I didn't learn to do that until Lemonade came out.
Holy shit.
Isn't that funny? I just realized that just now. I was like, oh, the album that taught me how to do that was Lemonade, because, great segue for me here, they launched a visual album with it.
Yes.
And so you had to watch, I was able to watch the visual album, and that's obviously in order.
Yeah.
The visual album was like, you know, an hour and some change, and you watch music video after music video after music video in order. And it, you know, you go through this like, all the phases of almost grief and repair when you watch the Lemonade visual album and listen to that album from front to back. And that was the first album that taught me like, oh, I should really listen to artists' albums, you know, without shuffling. And I was, okay, all right. She's just reinforcing that for me. That's great.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh,
speaking of, this was my segue. I really hope we get a visual album.
There has to be something visual. There has to be. There's a website. Now I don't know what it is.
I feel like we're not done yet. We're not done with Cowboy Carter until we get a visual album. And whatever those, you know what I would love to see? I would love to see the segues too. Like the Willie and the Dolly, like somehow on video.
There was I can't remember what it's called. You'd have to look it up, and I don't know how to tell you to look it up. But, so the next song, Daughter, for one thing.
Opera.
Has the line, "Look what you made me do" in it.
Yeah, which I noticed it before you did. Just I don't notice too many things before you in this. So I'm going to take the one credit that I got. I noticed the thing.
I was like, oh, that's a Taylor Swift nod. That's nice. Because I want to know if they're going to do something together, because of the fact, I mean, they haven't said they're going to do something together, but she went to the premiere of the Eras tour, so of the movie, you know?
Yeah, they were both very supportive of each other. Yes. They were touring at the same time.
So I want to see a remix of something.
Wait, so I do want to talk about. I want to talk about Daughter, because the lyrics are like kind of dark, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I couldn't quite figure out the rhetoric of it all, like. But I wonder, I don't know if like she's talking to her daughter at first or what, but like reading the lyrics, I'm like, oh, like it's like you're socializing with the wrong people, or you regret hanging out with certain people, and you just miss like the original, like, or the simplicity of like your youth. She says, she's calling somebody arrogant. Your arrogance disturbed my solitude. now I ripped your dress and you're all black and blue. Look what you made me do. And I'm like, who could that be about? Is that, you know, somebody talking to her as a young girl or a young, you know, woman in the industry. But then, she does do like an opera thing at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
This website, I forget that you can get that at genius.com when they come up with ideas of what they think lyrics are about.
Oh, like I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Your bloodstains on my custom coutures. The same syllable emphasis as the bloodstains on the Coliseum doors on the song No Church in the Wild by Jay-Z and Kanye West.
Oh, weird. So the opera she sings is called Caro Mio Ben. It's in Italian.
So she had to learn Italian to do this album?
I think that's actually a song that a lot of vocalists learn early on. Like,
so she can't
professional vocalists. Like, I mean, not that Beyonce's not
she can't have a conversation in Italian. I don't know if she knows Italian yet.
No, it's just like when you're trained, when you're trained as a vocalist, like you learn a lot of those older. You
have to learn a lot of languages.
Italian, Latin, like songs. Yeah. Yeah, Jeff, don't you sing?
But the song is asking for peace in conflict between loved ones is what the song's meaning is. So that goes along with what you're saying.
Oh, okay, too. Cool. Yeah, it says, I don't fellowship with these fake ones. Let's travel to white chapels and sing hymns, hold rosaries, sing in stained glass symphonies, cleanse me holy. Like it's somebody asking for peace. That makes so much sense. Yeah. It's just like especially like being the way that she grew up, you know, going to church and like having this very like, and she has that now, I'm sure. But like when you have such publicity and such caliber of like being in the public eye and being rich and famous, and how do you keep that family bond and you know make the right choices and not expose yourself to so many like bad opportunities or bad settings and feel clean after all of it, because you're Beyonce, you can go anywhere and do anything. Yeah. You know, you could be caught at the wrong party. You could be, you know, you could be wherever you want to be. You're Beyonce, you know, you're Beyonce and Jay-Z, you know, they could be in the worst types of situations, but it's like, how do they remove themselves and like, you know, stick together through it all? Like, interesting.
And she talks about her dad, because the other one being allegedly Jolene about her mom. Then the next song she mentions her dad a lot. I thought it was also interesting. She's like my father. She keeps talking about that.
Yeah. She doesn't want to be like her father.
I was just impressed with her singing on that song. I was just like,
it's like the lower register stuff. Like, really cool.
I just feel like I just love pettiness in general, and so maybe I look for it when it's not there. But there's still part of me that's just like,
this is the petty album.
Because I'm a hater by nature, so I can see the pettiness of the angles of the things that I used to critique Beyonce for before I saw the light. And before I joined. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that if you don't like an artist, you're not seeing their progression either. So it's like, not only, she was never a bad singer, but she's way better now than she was back when, you know, with Destiny's Child. Like, this is, to me, she's like what we heard in Daughter. I'm like, could she have always done that? Was she holding that back just because it was more of a pop type thing? Or was it like,
I think she's got full control now. I mean, if you go back and listen to Lemonade, that lyricism is so, it's really profound. And like, I mean, there's some pettiness in there too. And so when referencing Destiny's Child, it's like, I mean, her dad was running the ship, like, you know, and I mean, she was young and like in the industry, like, you know, her dad wasn't in the industry before she got famous, you know, as Destiny's Child. So like he was kind of navigating it too. So you kind of just do what other people say, and other people are writing those songs. Yeah. And so, you know, yes, she could always sing, but when you have the power now over your writing and your lyricism and your production.
Yeah. Because I felt like just even the choice was petty of just like, I felt like it was approving of like, well, some people say I can't really, I'm a good singer, not a great singer. Here's opera in the middle of a fucking country. What more do you want? You know what I mean? It felt like a very.
I did not know that people think that she couldn't really sing.
Well, I think that some people, the way that you.
Because she's not Kelly Clarkson, like she can't.
Yes. Yeah. So it's what we were talking about earlier. Like you have to be the best.
Yeah, but like Kelly Clarkson got her sound from R&B black music. So it's
sure.
She sounds.
But yeah, not even Kelly Clarkson specifically.
No,
But just in general, if you're not the best at a specific thing, then you don't deserve to be as high as you are. So it's like you could critique Beyonce and say she's not the greatest at any individual skill, but she's great at fucking everything. So you know what I mean? But if you wanted to put her down, if your goal was to say Beyonce's overrated, if that was your goal of a conversation, you could say, oh, I can name 10 people historically that can sing better than Beyonce, and you probably could. But what does that prove? What does that, you know what I mean? Like it's so when you break somebody's skills into sections, then you can say they're overrated. You can do that with anybody.
Right.
Michael Jordan was a bad 3-point shooter. He sucks. You know what I mean? Like you can do that with anybody and tear them down if that's what your goal is.
Her mom said something about how in school her teachers had said that she should sing opera. So I think she had sang at some point. But yeah, and then there was the hip opera, Carmen. Do you know about the hip opera?
No, I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, really?
There was a movie.
It's a star-studded cast. Mos Def was on it.
It was a movie on MTV, an MTV movie where it was an
original
opera because Carmen is an opera and she.
Well, first of all, it's not. It was a hip opera.
Right. But Carmen was an opera.
Okay.
Was an actual opera.
Yeah.
And then Beyonce did the hip opera.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which it was weird. I don't remember watching it all. It is all singing and rapping.
I remember it.
It was.
I remember it very well.
It was weird.
It was really.
Speaking of hip
really
opera.
Yeah, Mekhi Phifer, Mos Def, Bow Wow, Wyclef was on it. It was
weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, the next part is Linda Martell talking about genres. And I've heard theories about how this could be...
Oh, the beginning of spaghetti?
Yeah.
I love
this
spaghetti.
Portion could be what country would have been had black people been allowed into the picture.
Really?
Like the way that this sounds like country, but also all the genres are like blending and it feels like current, but also like in a weird,
maybe
multiverse,
that's why
like futuristic
that makes
way.
sense. She has Shabuzi on it because he kind of like, I was reading up about him and he kind of has that sound that you're describing. Is this like he's in the country genre per se, but like he uses what we've designated in its own bucket as like rap and R&B to like blend those things together. So that's cool that he's on it. I love this song. I love spaghetti so much. Trevor said, our friend Trevor, he was like, wow, Becca, you like the one rap song on the album, the country album. And I was like, I guess it's kind of funny, but like,
you also
I like
the
a
one
lot of
country
songs.
song on her last
album. I know. So it's just tit for tat, But Linda Martell. Okay, so this is a huge deal that Linda, they have that snippet of her saying like, genres are a funny little concept, you know? I always think of Tyler, the Creator, because he's always carried this in his messaging. And like when he won a Grammy for like one of his albums, it was like best rap album or whatever. He won a Grammy and his music is so unique. But in his speech, he does this in a lot of interviews but in his Grammy speech, he was like, even in my own genre, I feel like I didn't fit in because there's when you put an artist into a box like that, it's only prohibiting them. And we did see it with Lemonade. And we're seeing it again with her. And like you see it with people like Tyler and like that they're really just, they're musicians, they're artists, and so like they might lean to a certain genre and it's fine to describe something as a certain genre, but to say that you can only do that genre is so, I think it's just like, it's so restricting. It's unnecessarily restricting because then Beyonce does shit like this, and Tyler does the music that he does. And you're just like, oh, and Frank Ocean, when Frank Ocean put out his albums, like people are like, well, is this rap? Is it R&B? It's like alternative. And that's what we use. We use alternative as like a catch-all, for a lot of music we don't even understand how to describe. I just love that that's happening. And I love that, again, that's part of a conversation is like, let's make sure we're like using the word genre like not as a restricted term, but as a term that we understand, like, oh, it might lean more this way. Like Cowboy Carter leans country.
Yeah.
But you see, and then Yaya is a good example of that blending too of genres.
Yeah.
But Spaghetti, there's a lyrics in here where she says, come get everything you came for. I'm not a regular singer. Come get everything you came for, or something. And I think that's kind of a nod to like people challenging her. And she's saying like, no, I can do it all. Like I can do it all.
Yeah.
And if you want it, you're going to get it. So come get it, you know? So sassy. It's really, if you listen to those lyrics, Jeff, the lyrics in Spaghetti are like, they go so hard.
Anything you want to promote, talk about in closing?
Come to a Best Coast Trivia show in Los Angeles because there's probably going to be some Cowboy Carter questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday night at the Woods.
Wednesday night at the Woods. We do Tuesdays rooftop at Vidir. We do the winery, San Antonio Winery, every month. It's a monthly show. If you want a private show, I can write a specific show. We're about to take on the Bourbon Room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
we just signed on the Bourbon Room. So trivia nights with Best Coast are the best trivia nights.
Yeah.
And then Best Coast Media Productions, we're going to start putting some comedy shows in the works.
Yay.
And some variety shows we're working on. So yeah, it's good stuff.
And what are your handles?
So the trivia on Instagram, it's just Instagram now, Best Coast Trivia LA, TikTok, and then Best Coast Media Productions is just on TikTok right now. Still building the social for the bigger umbrella brand. So
awesome.
And then follow me, Becca Wolfley, on Instagram, where I make all my jokes.
And TikTok.
And TikTok, yeah. I haven't ranted on there in a while, but I've been busy. I'm
at Esther Toy, ESTHERTOI, on all social media.
And I am at Jeff Horste, JEFFHORSTE, on all social media. And
you have shows?
Yeah, I got shows coming up. They're around. April is mostly all in California, and but hey, click on jeffhorst.com or click on the link in my bio, the link tree in all of my social media's bios if you want to see what shows I got coming up.
Yeah, I have a show April 18th at the Open Fist Theater called This Week, where we get a script on Wednesday night and then we rehearse all Thursday and do the show Thursday night, and it's insanity and it's political. So if you like, not all political, current events, political, it's awesome. It's fun. It's sketches. We're on the Planet Ant Podcast Network. Planet Ant is a theater in Hamtramck, Michigan. And follow them at Planet Ant DET on all social media. And they're a theater that has a lot of sketch shows, improv, stand-up. So go check them out if you're in the Detroit area.
Yeah, and
follow us everywhere. We're freaking out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Yeah.
And if Beyonce's watching, thank you for this album.
Thank you so much, Beyonce.
Yes,
for donating 2.5 hours of your day to watch this podcast.
Yes. Thank you, Blue, for making me do this every time I come out on stage. And yeah.
All right.
So
we did it. Love you all.
Peace.